Dr. Prince, thank you for your time.
It's great to be here.
Right here, before school starts, what is the pressing thing on your mind?
Well, student safety is always number one. You want to make sure that kids come to school every day, that they have a great experience, and they come home, ready for the next day. But I think, in this day and age, in my job, you just want to make sure kids get on the bus, they're safe, and they get home safely. And the learning is always primary, but safety always has to come first. So we spent a lot of time this summer making sure that all of our teachers and our staffs know what to expect in emergencies, what to do. We drill it constantly. So we just want to make sure that our kids get home safely each and every day.
When we talk about safety, one thing that has come up is the cameras on the stop signs of buses. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you're working towards?
Yeah, we're working towards it. We're right now selecting from a number of different vendors. You have to put things out to bid, and we're in the process of selecting a vendor to hopefully get that up and running by the start of the next school year. But it is a process, and we're in the next couple of months we are going to be selecting a vendor for that.
Mm-hmm. One thing that wasn't on my list that I spoke about was like making sure all entries are closed, specifically on. I can ask about that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Certainly, the new law also that's making sure all entries are closed, specifically for after-school activities. How much of an undertaking is that?
It's not much of an undertaking for us because one thing that we recognize across the country, whenever you had a situation where you have an active shooter or an intruder, it's the failure of adults not doing what they're trained to do. And we've always tried to make sure over the past few years, especially after Parkland, that all of our exits and entries are locked, shut. We inspect that each and every day. We want to make sure kids come through a single point of entry, and we want to make sure all of our gates and our access points are locked. So that's something that we've been doing. Now it's legislated, but it's not. It's a practice we already had. I embrace that because it makes our kids safer. So we are prepared for it, and we've been prepared for the last 2 years. I mean, all of our entry points are secure.
I'm sure one thing you've been working on a lot also in the past couple of months is finalizing that budget.
Yes.
Did you use up all the ESSER funds?
Yeah, we've used up almost all of our ESSER dollars. We had about $90 million of ESSER funds. It primarily went to additional staff, teachers, interventionists. And as you know, those dollars went away. But we also were able to refresh all of our technology, make sure all of our students had laptops one-to-one. Our HVAC systems were upgraded. So we were, and lastly, a very robust summer program. We have an enrollment of about 47,000 students. And over the last 3 years, we've had about 5,000 students that are targeted to make sure those kids are getting what they need. So we have utilized those ESSER dollars, and I think I would attribute some of that to some of the success that we've had trying to catch our kids up after COVID.
So now that those funds have dried up, is there anyone that's now losing their jobs? Where are you finding space in the budget for them?
Well, nobody lost their jobs. There were a couple things that we did. Number one, natural attrition. You lose a certain percentage of your staff, each and every year through, retirements and whatnot. So all of those folks got placed. However, we found some of it that it was so effective. We had multiple interventionists at each of our schools, and we've held on to one of them because we want to make sure that we're not losing our instructional momentum with some of the initiatives that we started. So we haven't had to lay off anybody. Everybody's got a job. It's just the level of intervention that we've been able to sustain for the last 3 years, we're not able to maintain that, but we're still committed to providing services to our kids.
So just to kind of be clear on that, so the interventionists specifically were ones that were targeting people that were, or kids that were struggling, and then kind of had more one-on-one time with them?
Yeah, it was small group tutoring, small group instruction, but some districts cut all of that, because they just couldn't fund it, but we're funding one for all of our schools just to make sure we continue a level of service.
And are we expecting the summer programs to still be around?
It's not going to be as robust as it's been with the summer programs because we simply can't afford it. I mean, in the past, you had summer mainly in elementary school. It was for third grade students, special education students, and also our ESOL students. That's the way summer school used to be, and it will probably moving towards that in the future, is going back to the traditional summer school, kind of impacting those students. Over the past 3 years, we've serviced all of our students. We won't be able to sustain that level of funding moving forward.
Do you feel like you've caught up from all the losses that the pandemic brought?
No, we're not there yet. We're making progress. We had for us, it was a historic year of success. We had a very successful year, but I'd say we're not quite back yet from our pre-pandemic levels, but we've closed the gap with all of our subgroups with the state, and we've made great progress with our proficiency for our students, but we haven't arrived at our destination yet. And to your point, we haven't caught those kids back up yet. We still have too many kids that are absent, that don't come to school. And I always say that over COVID, we kind of normalize kids not coming to school because, I can just do my makeup work, or I can access it online. And we kind of created our own monster there. But we've really embraced the fact that kids need to have in-person learning for all students. We know that kids learn most effectively that way. And not just that, they have to have socialization skills. So where we've seen the biggest challenge is not just the academic end, it's the socialization end with our kids that we're trying to recapture, kids getting along with each other.
With that being said, certainly the literacy rate is not where you would love it to be. So none of our districts are telling us that their literacy rate is where they want it to be.
Sure.
How do you fix this problem?
Well, it's ongoing. I don't think, prior to COVID, nobody was happy with the percentage of students that are reading on grade level. But we made great strides. In third grade, we improved by 7%, and we closed the gap with the state. Our high schools did very, very well. One of the biggest challenges in St. Lucie County is we do have a substantial number of socioeconomically challenged students, and our kindergarten readiness rates are really, really low. So as you can see over time that our school district catches kids up to where they need to be. We've got one of the highest graduation rates in the state. So it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So that's something that I want our families to know and our parents to know, is it over time they may be behind, but by the time they graduate, they're exactly where they need to be.
How are you right now with teacher openings?
We have a little over 60 teacher vacancies right now, but in a school district of about 45 some odd schools, that's about one per school. We're not experiencing a huge problem, and we're much further along than we were last year. We had almost 100 at this time last year, so we're doing better than we were last year. But I'd also attribute some of that to what we talked about earlier with some of those ESSER positions, because we've been able basically to place those folks into vacancies that we had across the district. So we're in really good shape. We feel good about where we are. So I'm excited. And by the way, when we start school, every single one of our classes will have a teacher in it that's ready to go.
One thing I've read is that we in the media sometimes make a little too much about teacher shortage overall, and that the bigger issue is not having enough specific special education and STEM type teachers that are available. Do you feel like St. Lucie County School is where it needs to be at, specifically in those positions?
Well, right now, out of the little over 60 vacancies that we have, 17 of those are special education, special needs. So, do we have positions that are harder to fill? Absolutely. Special education, especially high school math or high school chemistry, high school science, those are some challenges. But make no mistake, I think that as a nation, we do struggle to find people that are going into this profession. And I think that we beat it up so much that, people, if they have aspirations, how many of them want to be a teacher? And I would say that there's no other and better aspiration you can have is to wanting to be a teacher, because you're touching and impacting lives every day. So I'd say for the listeners and the watchers out there that we've got a place in St. Lucie County if they're interested in being a teacher, because you're truly transforming lives.
How about retention? Do you feel like you're in a good place with keeping these teachers when they're here?
So one thing that we've done over the last few years is we've kind of shifted our thinking to exactly what that question was. You know, we used to have a Department of Recruitment and Retention, and we've inverted that. We've got a Department of Retention and Recruitment. We've really prioritized our retention rates, and right now our retention rate is about 97%. We keep 97% of our teachers annually. The national standard is about 85%. So we put a lot of things into place to support our teachers, to make sure they feel, you know, good. They have a mentor. We try to stay connected with them. We make sure that they're, you know, constantly getting training. And one of the biggest things that we try to do also with our teachers, especially the ones that struggle, is to support them with classroom management, because that's where many of them struggle. And we try to support them in each and every way, and we don't give up on people. You know, if they're struggling, you don't discard people. You try to make sure you support them and embrace them. And I think that's one of the many facets of why we have such a high retention rate, is because of the supports we provide our teachers.
Is there anything you can do to pay them more?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because we just settled with both of our bargaining partners. Our teachers last year got a little over a 6% raise, and they're going to start the year with almost a 5% raise this year. We've also settled with our CWA, which is our bus drivers, food service maintenance. It's a rarity for districts to settle before the school year starts. Many union and district relationships are very contentious. We have a very good relationship with our union partners. It's very open and collaborative, and I think almost every year negotiations for us don't linger. We're very transparent with our budget, and I think that we have a very collaborative process with our negotiations with our union partners, and we're kind of the exception to the rule with our union partners. We settle and have a history of settling very, very quickly. And I think that that's why the morale in our district is so good. And I always say we are a destination district for our employees, because they see that we're very collaborative with our employees and our employee leadership. Because I do think it's important for us to listen, and we're very open with our budget. They know how much money we have. It's just, how are we going to spend it? How are we going to spread it across all of our employees?
What is the district's relationship with iReady? How long have you been using iReady?
So we've been using iReady probably about 9 years. Now, it has been exclusive to elementary middle. Right now we're using it in elementary school. iReady has a purpose. It doesn't replace instruction, and I think that's some people misuse it because they're just putting kids on a computer and they think the kids are going to, you know, sit there for 45 minutes or whatever and just do this computer program. That's not what it's designed to do. It's basically a supplement for kids, and also we use it in our after-school programs. It's also, we find that it's a very good predictor for how the students are going to perform on the PM3 exam. So we try to use it the way it's intended to be used, which is a supplement for student learning.
And do you feel like it is beneficial?
It's been beneficial for us, or we wouldn't continue to use it.
Yeah.
So we feel like it serves our purpose, yes.
Mm. Yeah, when you said some people use it incorrectly, what do you mean by some people use it incorrectly?
Well, I would just simply say, if you think that iReady and you can replace the teacher by putting a kid on a computer, and that the student is going to learn reading comprehension, I think that's a mistake. And I think that there are some folks who have done that, and they're not going to get the results that they want. And in fact, parents get very frustrated about that, is if that's the only homework that they're doing is they're sitting on iReady all night. I just don't think it can be self-defeating.
And you make sure the teachers in St. Lucie County schools are clear.
Yes, we monitor usage in our classrooms, and what we don't want to see is there is a sweet spot for usage, and we intervene if we see it being used too much. So, or we have those conferences with our principals or individual teachers. We want to make sure they're trained with how it's supposed to be utilized, and we want to make sure that it's being utilized the way it's designed to be utilized. Mm-hmm.
So what is your big takeaway after the full year of FAST tests and those final assessments at the end of the year? You know, what do you think about how those tests went?
Well, I can tell you this. Number one, I was thrilled with the results. You know, math, science, social studies, and reading. I mean, we blew it out of the water, comparatively speaking to the years past, had great growth. But I just want to talk real quick about the PM1, PM2, PM3, because it's 3 times a year. Number one, I think that's very helpful because you almost get a pre-test, mid-year, and post-test model. It allows us to intervene in real time. And lastly, and most importantly, doesn't it, I don't understand why this has taken so long to do this, but if you're taking a computer-based test, you should get your results immediately. This is the first time we've ever gotten our results right away. So literally, if a 4th grade student takes it in the morning, when they go home at night, their parents can see how they did. I think that's fantastic. And not just that, I think it helps us throughout the year. Once they take that second PM assessment, we can see where the students are weak and then create a plan to remediate the student prior, 4 months later, they're going to take the last one. So I think it's been very, very helpful for us. I do think there is still too much testing because you've got to think about high school students. My daughter is in 10th grade. She's taking college classes. She's taking ACE exams, AP exams. She's taking PM exams. She's taking all of these different assessments. I don't know how helpful some of them are, but I do think that there needs to be accountability. We need to assess our students. It's just how much is too much. And I think parents feel the same way. They don't want their kids taking assessments every day. Because once we get into May, if you're looking at a school, an elementary school, basically from May 1st until the end of the year, kids are taking assessments every single day. It can be a little cumbersome.
So what's the answer to that? What do we do?
Well, I think we need to look at, sometimes less is more. We need to take a look at what are the most important things to assess, and then how many times are we going to assess it. And I do think that we do get into certain things that, do we really need to assess that? What is that telling us? And are we going to use it moving forward, or are we not? So there's a lot of things I think that we can clean up. I will say the model that we have is much better than what we had, but I don't think it's where it could be. I still think it's a little much. I also don't know if it's necessary to assess every grade level. We might do, 3rd, 8th, 10th, the way we did it a while back, and maybe they take 3 assessments a year. I'm just not sure if it's effective doing it every single grade 3 times a year. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Excuse me. Did you see a big jump in the number of 3rd graders that have to be retained and go through this year again?
Yeah, we saw a spike, and you have to remember, a few years ago when we had COVID, there was no students got retained. We had about 400 students retained in 3rd grade this year, which was high for us over the last couple of years, but still lower than it was in 2017, 2018. So if you're looking at perspective, it's about the same number as pre-COVID, and it might even be a little bit less because we did have a really successful year in 3rd grade. We focused a lot of resources there this year because we knew that was coming back. So I think it's not much different than pre-COVID levels.
How big of an issue is vaping in the schools, and have you looked into putting any kind of vaping monitors in restrooms?
Well, I'm going to tell you, we're looking into solutions. We're looking into the potential for vaping monitors because it is a huge problem, and it's a problem because the intensity and the levels of THC, especially in the students that are vaping marijuana, it's dangerous for the kids. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're vaping, and it is a challenge. And we've had kids that are hospitalized because they're vaping. So it is part of our student code of conduct. It's one of our biggest issues and one of our biggest discipline issues. But we are looking at some particular solutions. I know we're consulting with other counties with what they're doing, because I think we all have a collective problem. And anything that is dangerous and puts our kids' health at risk, we need to look at ways to deter it as much as possible, because it is a huge problem. And it's not just a local problem, it's a national problem.
Not as serious an issue, but more ubiquitous is cell phones use. Yeah. I know other districts have been looking into other ways to handle cell phones in schools. Where is St. Lucie Public Schools on that right now?
Well, you know what? We follow the law. It's now been legislated. Students can't use it during instructional time unless directed by the teacher. You know, every district has their own, hills to climb and their own issues that they want to address. We just haven't had as much of an issue in St. Lucie County as some of the other districts that have taken some more, extreme measures of just banning them altogether. We're just not there yet, and I say that because many of our teachers use them as a resource. They're using them for Nearpod or some of the things that they, utilize cell phones. They have the kids take cell phones out. They survey the students. They include them as part of their lessons. And prior to the law, we actually encourage that because they're all over the place. Every kid's got a cell phone. So we just haven't seen a need to go there and take it any further than the state's taking it right now.
To get back to security for a minute, how about metal detectors? Is that something that the schools have looked at?
Well, we're certain, once again, it's not something we currently have. We're looking into that. We're looking at the cost. We're also consulting with other districts that are utilizing them, particularly in our high schools, to see, what challenges have they faced. Are they effective? Also, how much is it holding? If you've got a single entry point with 3,500 students coming in, how long is it taking to get students through there? We're also looking at some alternative technology that's less intrusive, and we're looking to see would some of those solutions work or not. So, anything that's going to make our kids safe or safer, we're going to explore those possibilities. And we're in the process right now of exploring them and seeing what the cost is. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
And I saw that you're opening an autism school.
We are. It's a charter. We just approved it. It's a model that's used in Palm Beach School of Autism. They're replicating that here in St. Lucie. We're excited about it because it's one of the, number one, you mentioned earlier, it's one of the hardest teachers to find, but also those families truly need those services and they struggle to find them. So whenever we were approached, we absolutely embraced it because I do believe that those families need those options, need those services, and if we can't provide that service for them to the level that they need, then I think it's a great solution for our families in need.
All right, Dr. Prince, thanks for sitting down with me and have a great first day.